Morning, out training. Today, I want to talk about food prep and resupply on my upcoming long trail through hike. So let's start off on food prep. So for me, two types of food prep. Either use a stove, which is method 1, or method 2 is cold soak preparation. For the long trail, I'm going to go with cold soaking, which is choice number 2. So why cold soak on this hike versus other trails? A couple reasons. One, it's summer. It's really warm in the Northeast this time of year. 2, less pack weight. I don't have to lug fuel, I don't have to lug stove and a canister. Instead, I just replace it with a Talenti jar. And 3, it's convenient. So all 3 of those reasons, and I guess there's a 4th, the trail is a lot shorter, and I'm able to move faster. So cold soaking is not a method for everybody. It does take adjustment. I know for me it did. I did not even want to think about doing that until pretty far into the PCT, over 2,000 miles. And my drive to bring my pack weight down finally pushed me over the edge. But as we'll go here through this, I'll talk a little bit more about cold soaking and the prep and the benefits. So what kind of foods can you cold soak? I would say anything you can cook with a stove, you can cold soak. And you'll have to try and experiment yourself. But here's some of the things I do. Breakfast, typically oatmeal, easy peasy. Lunch, ramen, couscous, Mountain House meals, and that goes for dinner too. And then you can mix in all the things you normally would, like hot sauce or peanut butter or anything else. You know, add proteins and you can add fats. All those things are in play with cold soaking. So cold soak vessel. You want something that's watertight preferably. I use a Talenti jar, the gelato you can find at a grocery store. Those are about the right size, and you can store stuff in it when you're not using it, and it's easy to wash and maintain. The one thing though is don't put hot water in it. It will melt the plastic, so that's just something to be mindful of. But other than that, Talenti jar works great. Cold soaking does require some forethought, so that is one trade-off. Every system has trade-offs. So the trade-off is time. So depending on what you're cold soaking will dictate the minimum time you need to cold soak things. So for example, breakfast, oatmeal, you'll need probably like 5 minutes and it's good to go. What I typically do is I'll prepare it before I go to bed and let it soak overnight so it's nice and bulky in the morning. But again, that's your preference. Couscous, the beautiful thing about couscous is it'll prepare in 5 minutes whether you're boiling it or cold soaking it. So if you're in a pinch and you want quick calories that's satisfying, cold couscous actually isn't that bad. Otherwise, ramen, Mountain House, those kind of meals, you typically want an hour or 2. I would probably be more on the side of about 2 hours for a good soak. So just some general points there. All right, team, let's talk logistics. So logistics for a through hike does require some thought, and you should think about what method you're going to choose. So typically there are 2 methods and then a bridge between the 2 methods. The first method is to live off the local economy. Go into town, find a grocery store, convenience store, and resupply that way. That's common. I did that predominantly on the PCT. There's a lot of advantages to doing that. The big one is you don't have to plan as much, and you get variety, and you pay less in general. So there is economic upside to it. So those are the main advantages. Disadvantages, of course, are you get variety, and you may not always get what you want. One of the things I like was packeted spam, and that was a Southern California thing and nowhere else on the PCT when I did my through hike. So that's an example. The second method is the mail yourself resupply box method. That's nice because the principal advantages there are you have control over what you send. But that's about it. The disadvantages far outweigh the advantages. Number one, it costs more. Number two, you're subject to the whims of the postal service and the post office hours, which, oh, by the way, aren't the same in every town. Just like the TSA, the standards differ. Government efficiency. And the other one is that you may not always get your package. I bounced myself a box to Bernie, California, for example, on the PCT, and lo and behold, package never showed up. After my through hike, I got back to Florida and my box was waiting for me. So just be mindful of that. There's a lot of cost. The only thing you have control over is the variety and what you choose, but everything else is at the whim of somebody else. Okay, so now that I've told you I'm going to use the mail drop option for resupply, so how do we visualize that in the context of a through hike, especially 270 miles? The way I broke down this trip was several resupply points along the way, typically anywhere from 50 to 70 miles. I'll just roughly say, I don't have the numbers in front of me. So I'll stop at towns that most hikers stop at for resupply. Now for this hike, I'm probably going to do Neros or near zero days, where I go into town, recharge electronics, you know, shower, shit, shave, do some laundry, resupply, and then turn and burn, get back on the trail the next morning. Right now I only have one planned zero. That's up north in the north section of the trail past Main Junction. It's going to be a lot freaking harder than the PCT. So that's a breakdown of just the trail. So if you figure, I'm going to do 4 big resupplies. The first one's my initial, because I'm not going to fly with my food, so I'm mailing myself box 1. Box 1 is just gets me on leg 1, and then I'll have 2, 3, and 4, and that should cover me. Another thing that I'm leveraging, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you this, is I also make a planning assumption. Whenever you leave town, eat breakfast and pack yourself a lunch out of town. Always, always, always. That's something I learned on the PCT. Okay, so the next segment I'm going to discuss is, well, what are all the things that I should buy or could buy for a resupply box? Well, the answer is whatever you would buy in town for a resupply, X, where X equals number of days. So typically the most I can resupply with the food I like is probably about 5 days in a large flat rate box. After that, I'll have to go bigger in a box. So I typically don't like doing that. So that's just something to keep in mind. But after this, I'm gonna take you and show you what my first resupply box looks like. Okay, so this is my first resupply box for Vermont. Actually, it's my initial food loadout for leg 1. And I'm just going to show you a sample of what this all entails. All right, so breaking down the box. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, morning snack, afternoon snack, and I'll just go in chronological order. So starting the day, breakfast. So oatmeal packets, these are the Kodiak or the whatever Bear brand. They have the extra protein. In here I have Carnation Instant Breakfast. This is hot cocoa. That's for later in the evening, but it's all packaged in one. I put it in a Ziploc bag because during transport the boxes get roughed up and I've had shit explode. So in order to contain the explosion, you put it in a Ziploc bag. Now proceeding to snack 1. So about the 10-mile point, I go usually with my go-tos, either store-bought pies, which I loved on the PCT later on, and then early on in the trail, I like Lenny and Larry cookies. They're flat, they weigh 4 ounces per cookie, and they have like 450 calories per. 3 different flavors: strawberry shortcake, birthday cake, and my favorite lemon poppy seed. And that's that. Electrolytes, Noon tablets, my go-to. I always start the day with a Noon tablet, and then I use them throughout the day, usually just twice a day. And then drinks, in this bag, a variety of stuff that just dumped out. Some liquid IV, some Element that I had left over, creatine. So this time I'm bringing creatine with me because that's awesome and you need it for recovery. And then I also have some Via coffee that I had laying around, and then Tapatio packets. Love the hot sauce. So that's that. I put all that over there. All right, so lunch. So basically I've described it, but I'm going to go through it here in past videos. So Peak Refuels, I'm doing that this time because I had a good deal on them, and Backpacker's Pantry also had a good deal. So I take, each of these contain 2 servings. So if you look, there's 2 servings. So I take half of this packet, and then I mix it with 1 packet of ramen. I shit can the MSG high sodium seasoning mix and just the noodles. I mix the 2 together. That makes lunch, and that also makes dinner. So that's 1 day. So I have 6 packets of ramen and 3 of these wonderful D-high meals. So that's 3 days of lunch and dinner. And then that takes care of the carbs. And then I have the proteins. So premium white chicken, Starkist, really good. Spam singles, baller, and these wild yellowfin tunas in extra virgin olive oil, always good. So that is lunch and dinner for 3 days. And then other protein, chops, beef snacks, these are awesome. When I get tired of these things in tuna, I just go to that, and that provides a really good meat source. And then I have some epic venison that's laying around at home. Protein bars, these Great Value chocolate chip energy bars. I'm going to give them a try this time. They're 250 calories per bar, and they're like way light. So I'm super stoked to try those out for the trail. The Kind bars are always good. The dark chocolate cocoa, one of my favorites, go-to from the PCT. So there you have it. That is a 3-day supply box. It covers leg 1 from the border to Manchester Center. I'm starting off taking it easy and making sure verify my conditioning, make sure I'm good to go before it gets a little more challenging in the later legs. But this is my basic meal resupply structure, and I use it pretty much for all my resupplies, whether in town or shipping via the US Postal Service. Oh, and I forgot one last thing I didn't cover was Ziploc bags. I keep empty Ziploc bags. They're freezer bags, always, always, always. And I use the quart and also a couple gallons. That'll allow me to package my Peak Refuel Backpacker Pantry meals with the ramen. And then I crush it all up, mix it together, and use it with my cold soak in the Talenti jar. So resupply boxes, checking your mail rates. Typically, most people use the US Postal Service. I have used UPS. I have used FedEx on through hikes. And those for different reasons. Mainly because the place I am sending the item to does not have a reasonable post office office hours, or it's just easier to send it via a different method. And so typically now these days, the Far Out app is pretty good. It gives you the latest scoop on each town. And I'd also, if I were doing a through hike, I would get on social media, in particular Facebook groups associated with through hikers, trail maintainers, trail angels, for the trail you're hiking and the section of the trail you're hiking, especially for the bigger ones. And get the scoop. And if you have questions, social media is a great forum to ask questions, and you'll get answers from great people in the community. So the US Postal Service definitely charges on geometry of the box. So weird geometries, big geometries, be ready to pony up a lot of money regardless of the weight. So that's just something to be mindful of. And I know there'll be some people comment, oh, technically, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Go ahead and please comment. Correct me. I'm just telling you just in general. So what I do is I use flat rate boxes. A large flat rate box in the year 2025 goes for something around 26 and change dollars, that is dollars, US dollars. Okay, so there you have it. Hope you got something out of this video. I am super stoked to go on this hike. It's been, my gosh, 9 or 10 months since I've gone on a long hike, and man, I've been itching to do this. But you know, life is it's a curious thing, as they say, and had some opportunities come up over the last couple months that were too good to pass up for me. And so I took a job, and it's been great, and I've had a lot of flexibility and been blessed. So that's been good, and it's been good for the family, and it's provided some much needed structure after I basically blew 2024 up by going on a 5-month through hike. And so by the grace of God, I've been afforded the opportunity to go on another through hike here. So super excited to do that. Thank you for watching the video.